Hello, guys. So today we're talking with Sean from AlchemyLeads. He is a good friend of mine. We met at several conferences. Do you remember the first conference we met at? It might have been Digital Unfiltered, I think.
In Vegas, yeah, it was in Vegas.
Yeah. And so it's an honor to actually get to talk with you today and learn more of your story. And I was just saying this, before we started, like, I kind of want to hear more about AlchemyLeads, how you got started, all of that. And then we're going to jump into a lot of new Shopify SEO stuff. We both do some Shopify SEO, some ecom SEO. So definitely want to see what I can learn from you on that. And we can go into user engagement, all of the Google API leaks, all kinds of fun stuff. First off, Sean, thank you for jumping on.
Yeah, of course, dude. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, we met in Vegas, and I think that a couple years ago. And I think the way that we met was a lot of times at these conferences, there's a lot of affiliates, local, there's a lot of different people. But Shopify SEO, a couple years ago. So I think now it's becoming a bigger uh, niche, like agency Shopify. But yeah, we started back in 2017. At the time, just sort of trying it. Just had a client, was like, hey, this fell into my lap. I should go with it. And it was tough in the beginning. It was really tough. I think the first couple of years, even though it may have seemed like we were doing well, I think, like looking back on it, a lot of it was luck, like just dumb luck, getting the right opportunities, being in the right places at the right time.
Right.
Having a network also, I think that helped me early on, like pretty cool people around us that could kind of give guidance
Yeah,
or
I mean, like me and you met networking, and you've already helped me quite a bit. Like you referred someone for cold email. I've been working with them. Like you've helped me out a lot, and I think it just proves how important networking is. Like in SEO, even if you're a client or an SEO, like either way, I mean, if you want to be really innovative and you have like a Shopify store, like go to one of these conferences. Like you will learn so much and you'll have your mind blown so many times that like just the people you meet and the resources you get will really help you out.
oh yeah, for life too. Like something that I notice is a lot of times you can't really find that many people who do what you do or who know what doing what you do entails. Like, maybe the pressure, the stress, dealing with, like you said, Slack going crazy at all hours of the night.
Right.
So you meet people who want to help, and then I try to be the same, like more of a connector. And I like to be real. So in real life, when you meet people, it's like sometimes the conference itself, like the presentations and whatnot, that's good stuff, and you can learn there. But I learn a lot from being, just at a dinner and things that they might say offhand.
For sure. For sure. And that's a classic thing people say is, where you learn the real knowledge, the real SEO and digital marketing knowledge is at the bar. It's
Exactly.
like at night, you're talking with people, they're getting a little loose, maybe they've had a bottle of wine, whatever it is, like get people just talking. And that's where they'll share the real secrets. Most of the presentations, like I remember the first conference I went to, SEO spring training, it was like every conference talk, I was like learning shit. I was like, wow, uh now it's more like I go to the conferences and more or less every speech, I'm kind of like, yeah, I know most of kind of what they're talking about. And then you have like an occasional speech where you're like, wow, that blows my mind. But as a beginner, you'll just every speech you'll be like, oh, like it'll be crazy. Um, but you kind of get used to what the normal things that are said.
Yeah, my first conference back, I think it was SMX one of the years, like around 2012, 13, 14, and it was just a day in, day out. It felt like school. Like I had a notepad, 8 hours. I was just like, you know, taking everything down. Afterwards, we were talking about it. And so now I'm the same way where I try to pop in, but I'm not, taking word by word notes and stuff like that. I'm just trying to see if there's something new I can learn. And then again, like just, after the conference itself, asking the questions that you want answered, so having like, oh, I think this person can help me with this. How did you do this? Like specific questions. And everyone wants to help. That's the really cool thing is like, whatever level you are.
It's a really good
Yeah,
community.
it's a great community. Everyone is like helpful and, everyone nerds out on the same stuff. So
Right, and it's fun. It's fun to help people out because 'cause you're like, I can finally talk about the nerdy stuff that, like, my wife or whoever, like, will
Oh
never
yeah,
listen to, right? Like, you get a space where you can talk about the nerdiest stuff for, like, an hour straight with your laptop, like, that's where the real secrets are getting shared, and it's beautiful, like, we hear a lot of people mention on even these calls so far, networking, and I think it is so powerful in digital marketing. You can really speed up your progress, whether you're a Shopify merchant or whether you're just a, like, college kid, like, going to these conferences, networking, like, a lot of the blog posts and things like that online are not the real deal. A lot of the LinkedIn posts, like, they're not where the real stuff is.
yeah, yeah, 100%. It's like a lot of it's canned and generalized, and that's something too that depending on what level you might be at, like, you may discover conferences after you've been in the game for 15 years and you'll still find someone that's your level. Or if you're a beginner, you'll find a lot of stuff that can point you in the right direction so you don't get lost.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's too much out there with the course stuff and the course gurus and this guy does this. It's too much. So you have to cut through the noise somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's most of digital marketing is shiny object syndrome.
Exactly.
Like, and it's so hard to not be. Even for the best of us, we're all like, "Oh, look at this new tool."
AI for me is one of those too, where yeah, it's useful, but it's probably overhyped also. It's just like someone told me this with the phone. So the iPhone came out like 2007. It's only been like 20 years. And now we understand with e-commerce and with Uber and all the things you can do with your phone, like how it played out. But someone told me that what if we're in that same cycle with AI? We're like, yeah, right now people are using it for blogs and writing essays, but in 20 years, what'll it look like? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, me too. I've been AI is kind of my passion, like, when I get off work, like, I'm always playing with it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I think it's a medium. Like, everyone's talking with the economy and stuff, like stocks, if you follow any of that stuff, like,
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Nvidia and all of those stocks are just so overpriced right now and so over invested in. It's like, if you actually take the numbers, of course I don't remember it now, but it's
Mhm.
like something like 100, like, they're expecting AI to be like $100 trillion, like,
Yeah.
invention, and it's similar to the dot com boom, where it's like, yes, AI is amazing. Same with the dot com boom, right? Like, dot com and websites were amazing, but it's like, is it $100 trillion worth of economic value? I don't
I
know.
think it's the same thing. It's like the hype cycle.
Yep.
So even with the internet and the dot com boom, like that was the hype of the internet, and like, oh my gosh, the internet's going to change everything. But that little rush in like 1999, 2001 might have been a hype cycle, but it did play out over time
Yep.
the right way. So I think it'll be something like that. But I agree. I think it's a little bit hype where like I'll have CEOs ask me like, what should we do with AI? And it's kind of like, yeah, if you want to make AI videos or AI blogs, like, you can do some of that stuff. They're like, what about a chat bot, an AI chat bot that knows everything? And I still think we're a little bit away from that because you see, even though AI is getting better by every 6 months, you can still see the limitations sometimes on the out.
Yeah, I used to get hallucinate a lot, and you can kind of get workarounds. I find a lot of use cases even in the agency, but, like, yeah, it's not there for quite a few things, and I think it's overhyped.
Yeah.
But are you using, like, how are you using AI? Are you using it in your agency for, like?
Yeah, so it's definitely in everyone's writing process. I read something that like 90% of websites have some AI. Even if you look at, we were talking about stocks, like those Benzinga, like automated reports, those have been AI for a long time. So AI is definitely in use in our writing, but there's a human writing it, there's a human editing it, there's also multi-step process. So it's not just one AI, there's like different things that are being done, whether it's the keyword research or humanizing it after the fact and then editing it with the human,
Mhm.
so humanizing it twice. Um, sometimes like, so that's basically it. And it's, I don't think it's noticeable. So we try to humanize it. So you better not see like a delve in there. Like, oh, let's delve deep dive into
Right.
this. Oh, you better not see like the intro, the conclusion,
Yep.
um, and the fluff. Like you can see the fluff pretty clearly when it's like,
Yeah, yeah, and people like Corey, who's big SEO guy, like, he always taught, like, cut out the fluff, and I think that's part of the problem with AI is that if you just give it to something like, I don't know, any of these AI writers, like it'll just spit out a 4,000 word article, like filled with fluff. And it's like something very simple you can do to even help that, is literally go through every paragraph and just tell like ChatGPT or something to make it more concise. Like give it feedback for each paragraph, and then it will make it better. And then human edit it. So I think it's a whole process of sort of like actually getting good content. Like at the end of the day, it's like actually get good content that humans would be entertained to some degree by reading. And you can do that with AI, but you have to go through many different steps, like you're talking
Yeah,
about.
and it's much more human involved than it sounds like. So if you're just throwing some stuff and getting the output and giving that back, it's garbage. So, you really do need almost like a human to rewrite the complete AI to be a human or to be more on brand or like whatever the messaging needs to be. So it's not quite there yet. That's probably the only place that I really see it in use, but there is demand for it. I think what I would love and what most people would love is like a really good chat bot
Yeah.
that's conversational, even like for phone systems, like, we have an office, people pick up the phone. If there was like a better IVR where it was actually good, that could be kind of cool.
Like imagine calling your bank and actually like not being annoyed.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just knows like, oh, boom, here's your problem. I fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's happening and we're there yet. But even if you look at some of the videos and some of the AI images, like even with fingers, it's getting better, but you still see like, all right, it's not quite there yet. So I think we're just early. We're super early, I think.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's a hard problem. So that's really interesting. Let's take a step back and I know that you do a lot of Shopify SEO, and that's kind of like how we originally connected.
Yeah.
And so before we dig too deep into AI and all this fun stuff, like tell me a little bit more. Let's chat about Shopify, and like you mentioned, you had your first kind of client just pop up there, and you got the opportunity and you started working on it. Like what are some challenges on that first client that you've overcome, and that now like you're obviously comfortable in Shopify, you're comfortable with e-commerce SEO. Like what was that learning arc kind of like for you?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I think you learn by being in the field, by doing. So my learning arc. So the first client was like 2017, 8 years ago. So the learning arc, we're still learning. It's been 8 years. So you learn by doing. I also find that people get lost in the information, and they'll be like, "How do I do this?" And they'll read blog after blog or course after course about it. And that's not how I learn at all. I have to jump in. If I see 12 courses in front of me, I'll blank out and leave. You know,
Yeah.
so I think just being in the field, and then you see that there's been so much change, and so much has evolved. So now, really, it's just like staying up to date, like we mentioned with the conferences, knowing what's happening, and I think just simplifying everything. So you can break Shopify down a billion ways, but really, your homepage, your collections page, your product detail page, those are like your three most important pages, your money
For sure.
pages, you
For
know?
sure.
And so as long as you dial those in and you get things kind of squared away where you're better than your competitors, whether it's on link building to those pages or the design and the conversion flow for those pages, I think that's something that I've noticed more and more with Shopify. The reason that I love Shopify and love even migrating customers from WooCommerce to Shopify
Hmm.
is because Shopify's checkout flow is so much better on mobile. And once you've checked out to a Shopify store anywhere online, it kind of remembers you, and you could
Yep.
have one click checkout. So it increases conversions, and as an agency, revenue and conversions, that's the thing.
Yep.
Like, people get bogged down into like, oh, I'm doing SEO, which is just title tags and meta description. No, they're paying you to make them money. So if you need to run Facebook ads, you need to run Google ads to generate that immediate revenue, and then let them chill on your SEO as that takes time. You still need to make them money. That's like the value add of any agency. SEO, PPC, it's, do you make me money? Yeah. So I just think Shopify is changing, but what it does so great is that conversion flow.
Right. No, I think so too. Shopify has very good conversion flow. It has very good backend. I mean, it's simple for merchants to use, but you don't have to like be a programmer. You don't have to be like too technical to just. I mean, the backend is so simple, right? Like you go to the collections and there's like one button in the top right, create collection. Like so, like it's very simple to sort of create a collection, add some products. I think that that user experience is nice in the back end, and then the front end for conversions is really good. Um, and most of the nerdy SEO stuff that like you'll hear SEOs get mad about Shopify all the time, and I do as well sometimes. I mean, there's been cases where like I'm unable to do some like HTTP status code or something that like actually is needed. Um, but like as much as you hear that, like most of that stuff can be solved in another way. Like you can just figure out how to solve it, without like just kind of doing a wraparound sort of solution.
Yeah, I find that it's not, there's really no problem it can't do, especially with integrations and apps. And in the worst case, if there's something that you need done, like we could build a custom app and, so you can still build on Shopify and build your own apps. So there's almost no case where you should run into a problem that's too limiting. But I sometimes also see that for a business owner, like you just mentioned, as it being so easy, but I do think really business owners don't even want to deal with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and if it's, even if they have a marketing manager, even they could be doing something more uh, effective than managing the Shopify. So when we get into Shopify, a lot of it becomes back end. So like making sure their product bundles are there, they have the proper configuration. So if you sell one item, but it has 8 parts that you got to get with it, how clean does that flow look?
Yeah.
Um, and then anything around revenue. So like raising average order value is key. So in your checkout drawer, is there like upsells and call outs that make people want to add more there? Are you incentivizing like, hey, get 20% off if you add $50 or whatever it might be? And then all those things are SEO. I think that's what we were talking about. Like, I think that's more SEO and more impactful right now for a Shopify store than changing a bunch of title tags or changing or writing a handful of blogs. If you optimize the collections page and the homepage and the checkout, the product pages for conversions, those user signals will affect your SEO positively. And then if you're, amplifying that with Facebook ads and Google ads and maybe doing something on TikTok, maybe your YouTube channel like yours is popping, right?
Thank
Uh,
you.
it's just like amplifying. So it's those good signals 4 times. And that's going to, push you over the edge compared to someone who's not doing any of those things.
I agree. I mean, like I found that much more in the last 12 months than ever before. We had the Google API leak, and it mentions tons of times about Chrome views.
Yeah.
They're watching people on the Chrome browser. Like they are watching us. And what that means for your SEO and your digital marketing is that like sending traffic is a signal. And
Yeah.
so, like, if you are competing with someone that's spending $50,000 on Facebook ads and they're sending tons of traffic to their website, you will have a disadvantage to them because Google is looking at traffic, they're looking at conversions, they're looking at these different engagement signals. And so, if your website is bad and everybody that lands on it isn't really staying, like, a client of mine mentions it as in like your website should kind of be like a maze, right? It should be like IKEA where like you're walking around and you want to stay in it. Like you're looking through all the different rooms, you're taking a look, you're taking your time. And those kind of signals are more important than ever. And like I think I agree completely with just seeing all of that in the real time.
Yeah. And I think really what it is in SEO, so keeping things simple, there's so much information in those leaks, just like the Yandex leaks. There's 2,000 plus factors. So what are you going to do? You're going to optimize for all 2,000 factors and weigh the scales. You're not going to do that. What you really can do, and Ted K is probably the one that really put me onto this a couple of years back, which is like,
Ted Kabitis.
yeah, OG. And so what you really want to do is if all sites are the same, if they have 1,000 links pointing to them, you have to analyze who you're competing with and what they don't do well and do that well, essentially. So that's edge SEO, right? Like finding your edge, finding
Yeah.
your advantage. And I think now more and more it comes down to that. So the smallest things, like, if 2 sites are the same, but one site has a ton of Facebook traffic that converts really well, it takes traffic to make traffic, just like it takes money to make money. Like, so those signals, will improve that site over the one that's not doing it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you just have to look for the edge. You can get really bogged down in the details and the technicals of like, oh, my H1 tags and my alt image, but it doesn't work like that.
Mhm. Mhm. And I do feel like, you do need those technical aspects in place because that is an edge as well, right? So,
Yeah.
like, often we'll find, Shopify stores where the collection page doesn't have an H1, right? Like
Yeah.
the name of the collection is like an H3 or something random, right? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Or it has no content at all on the collections page itself.
yeah,
So you
that's
got,
almost always the case, right?
yeah.
Like for new merchants or big merchants, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're listening to this, like some of the easiest SEO wins is just add content to your collection page. If your collection page is just a name, like beds, and then a list of products and nothing else, then
Yeah.
like you need to add some sort of text there, right? You need to give Google at least something to crawl.
Same. I would actually add something to that, which is like, so on a Shopify store, the blog is really important and the blog will get you a lot of traffic. But like link building to your individual blog pages is okay. But link building to those collection pages on the homepage and like just having all of your resources go to those two pages is so much better than even if you try to dial it in and be scientific and say, oh, 2% to every recent blog. Like, you want to focus your efforts where they're going to make the most impact. And on Shopify, it's the homepage, the collections page for SEO, and that juice of all your products. So if you have a lot of products and a lot of collections, those are where to send your links. And then it's just that conversion flow. How do you convert?
Yeah. And so that's a good point. I completely agree with sending links to collection pages. Now, can you go a little bit more into, say, someone's never even heard of link building? They have no clue what you're talking about. They own a Shopify store or whatever. Like, how do you introduce them to link building? And what is your philosophy on that in terms of building links?
So I always frame it like links are kind of like thumbs up or upvotes on Reddit, or if you get a recommendation or a resume and you see on the resume, there's like, oh, 5-star general, like, okay, that's a good link. That's like, that's basically what it is. It says someone of authority or something of authority says this is worth looking at. So, the way that we do links, I think it's changing post HCU. I think it has changed, and for the better, I think. So, a lot of agencies get stuck into the deliverables of like, hey, our invoice says 15 links a month, so we got to build 15 links a month, and that might be actually hurting you now.
Right.
I think over optimization and link building is a bigger and bigger problem, where you actually want to be less optimized in your backlink profile. I think now we want more links to the homepage versus any other page because it obviously is going to, you know, get ratioed by all the other links that go to the homepage. So it'll be a little bit more natural looking. And press releases might be my favorite new form of link. It's not new, but in the last year, it's become more of my favorite.
Yeah.
Because you can get like 500 links in one go, and they're good links. And yeah, they'll be temporary. They might decay in 3 months, maybe even less. But you do that on a consistent basis, that might have more impact than 10 to 15 mid-tier guest post links that everyone's doing that are kind of mid.
Yeah, yeah, and like I want to go more into that. So, for a beginner, like you said, links are just kind of upvotes from other websites. So, the simplest version of that is like imagine you're a startup and you get a link from Forbes, right? Instantly, you have build credibility that way, right? Like if entrepreneur.com, forbes.com, Huffington Post, like if these websites are linking to you and mentioning your brand, obviously that's a good signal for people to trust you. And so that's one of the fundamental ranking factors for Google. They see those links, those recommendations, and they're like, damn, these people are trustworthy, right? They have something to show for them. So that's sort of the idea of link building. I think link building has for a long time kind of devolved into this sort of, since the beginning of the SEO industry, it's been very spammy at times.
For
People
sure.
manipulated a lot of this. And I think the industry has gone to a point where, that pure idea of a recommendation that we just said, that's nice. But like what it becomes nowadays is really just like websites that are built just for linking. They're just there to sell agencies and other websites links, and they're just sending links
Yeah.
to websites to try to increase SEO.
Link farms. Yeah.
Link farms, exactly,
Yeah.
and we've had those since the beginning of time too, right?
Yeah, yeah. But and effectiveness. So it's like people will go to the things that work. And so if you're a black hat or a gray hat, which I kind of come from that too. I worked a little bit in the payday space. and it's tough. It's different. But so, you have to weigh everything and see what's most impactful. And so back in the day, that link spam stuff really, really worked. Like, even like pre Panda and Penguin, like you could basically shoot one crazy link and you'd rank,
Yeah.
you know? So now it's a different ballgame. I would also equate them just to signals. So I also think they're still the most important. Like I still put links over content,
Hmm.
and I think I'll always be in that bucket
Right.
because, like, yeah, that's the differentiator. If all content is the same, what's the differentiator? We talked about design, but links too. If one has a Forbes link and one doesn't, and the other thing I would mention there too is like it's the highest stuff. The top tier stuff is going to push you forward. The middle tier, it's like a bell curve. Like all the stuff that 80% of stuff is going to go away. It doesn't matter as much. It becomes less impactful. But the top level stuff, so if you get, a link from any like Forbes, a Forbes link would still work, right now. I don't think that's ever going away, even though
Right.
publishers might want it to go away, but it's
Right.
some of those things are not going away. So as long as you can get the best links and have where you're doing it quarterly. So have some type of process where you're always getting some of the best links. Even like the journalist links, like the old Haro links,
Yeah.
we're phasing out of those. I think those are getting beat up. And like any link that someone else can get very easily and 1,000 other people can get very easily, you don't really want them anymore. But like a really high end niche edit, if you're let's say an off road company and you get something on a sports magazine like Bleacher Report, and you get a Bleacher Report link, that could be really crazy. That could move the needle.
Yeah.
But yeah, these link farm guest posts, I don't think are going to move the needle. Even this Reddit stuff, that Reddit went way up, so now people are really like, "Oh, let's go on Reddit." I think that'll be a fad that kind of phases out.
So I love this conversation, Sean, because I feel like you have a really good experience in link building. So like I think that does distinguish you from a lot of SEOs. You've been doing it a long time. You have a lot of experience there. Because you mentioned white hat versus black hat. Like I'm money hat. You hear that before, right?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
nobody cares. Like the ethics of it is, if you're promoting something good, you're good, right? Like now promoting payday loans and stuff like that might be a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
actually a little black hat. But like at the end of the day, we're all marketers. We're all promoting something, right? So you could send links to a, I don't know, like a nonprofit, right? And like obviously that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So we're all money hat at the end of the day. We're trying to build businesses. We're trying to grow revenue. Um, I do think like I've used a lot of the just kind of link farm type websites. I have seen them work as long as they have good metrics, right? And so I think there's a lot of ways to do link building, and you can get creative with it and you can make it work. But I am seeing those types of links get less and less effective. Are you also seeing that?
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. So it still works to some degree if you're really contextually relevant, like that link farm is really only talking about certain things, but it usually it talks about everything because they
Yeah.
can get money from everywhere. So if you really were working with like a dialed in network that had things dialed in, maybe it still has impact. And if your competitors don't have that, like it can still give you impact. And then I think also just from the signals, another thing is like link velocity. In those leaks too, there's link velocity. So how many links you get on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, like it all establishes some trends. But yeah, I just don't think that over time you can see like the writings on the wall. They're going to get less and less. Basically, they may not ever hurt you, but it'll just get to a point where everyone has these kind of links, kind of like coupon spam.
Yeah.
Like I think coupon spam is a big deal. Anytime I see that with clients, we disavow and we notice good things after. But Google always says don't disavow because we can see every spam thing out there, but that's not necessarily the case. So there's like a little bit of fuzz in terms of like how Google can determine which links are truly spam and which aren't.
Yeah,
Like
that's a good question too. Like I used to be big in the camp of don't disavow. Now we do disavow and we
yeah,
do keep it in mind. I think it is the right move. I think it might not be the highest impact thing, right? Like if you're
yeah,
just getting an SEO, like don't like
yeah,
focus on building links and building content and stuff like that.
yeah. But
But
it depends
I
on the
do
site.
find disavow makes sense if you're an advanced SEO for sure.
Yeah, and it depends on the site. So if you're working with a site that's 20 years old and has a ton of links, it does make sense that like, okay, if there's, some percentage of these links that are not good, that are counting towards the link profile, if I can directly submit those to Google and say, hey, these links we don't like, you're also helping Google. You're also saying like, hey, these are the bad links, uh, downvote them in your algo.
Right.
So I think it matters depending on the site. If you get with a really, or if you see a big change in trend, like if you're going up and then you start going down, like you got to look at like the forensics of like, okay, could it be? And I have seen a lot of coupon spam, especially for e-commerce stores. I could tell you some names, like some specific names, but like there's definitely a lot of coupon spam. And it's
Yeah.
usually, here's a way to tell: go in your Ahrefs, look at image links, and then exact title and anchor. Those are the links that I think are spamming people right now.
Okay. Yeah. And so you do find like do you find like negative SEO to be a thing? Like have you
Yeah,
had
I
that?
still think. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I do think Google's getting better at determining like, so they're getting better at like lowering the value of those links everyone can get. They are like, or even cloud links and like links that people can set up, drive links and all of this. I think they're getting better at devaluing that. But if someone comes up with a new negative tactic or like a new domain for negative, it takes a while to figure out
Right.
what's spam and what's not,
And I think they use the disavow to actually understand what spam is, right? So
Yeah,
like it's kind of
yeah,
training their AI. So it's like
exactly.
if it's something new that nobody's disavowed before or it's not common to disavow, then like Google may not understand it. And we don't know what Google understands and what it doesn't. So it's almost just a safety net to disavow sometimes.
To be honest, I'm going to get heat for this saying this, but I don't think they really understand. It's been a black box for a while. It's like the same black box inside of a Boeing. You know, like it knows what's happening. Nobody else really knows what's happening. I
Right.
I think it's too advanced. If you do the same search a couple of times in a row, you'll see different results.
Right.
You know?
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, like that's so interesting. So where are you going with your link building? You mentioned that Haro you're kind of phasing out. Um how are you building out links right now?
So I think being a little bit more strategic, and something I'm seeing is like less is more in a lot of ways. So instead of having those deliverables where it's like, hey, we're going to hit X amount of links, and usually it's an aggressive number,
Right.
right? So having that aggressive number on a monthly basis, we're phasing it out to where it's like, hey, we'll probably get somewhere between 5 to 10 links a quarter that are of a ratio or a value that we think is good. But we're not promising to do it all the time. And most of those are going to the homepage. A lot more, we're making a lot more use of press release links. And of course, having good content, a good topic, um, you know, and even if you do that every quarter or every 6 months, you're getting big, batches of links. And then in between that time, if you can get, a niche edit on this really big site, even one of them, I think that makes a difference. So link building, it's like less is more. There's less links that we're probably building, but they're more impactful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's very easy to fall into the trap of 10, 15, 20 links a month.
Everyone's
And it
doing it. Yeah.
obviously and it makes sense from a business perspective, right? Like it's very simple. You can, it's very quantifiable for businesses. You can be like, okay, $300 a link or whatever, and we
Hmm.
get 20 links, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
But I think companies have to understand that that's not going to get results nowadays. It can, depending on how they're building the links, but it builds in a negative feedback loop where your agency is like, oh no, we have 18 links. We have to pile on
Exactly.
two more, right? Like
Exactly. And the
it's
quality
a,
goes down.
and the quality will almost always go down.
Yeah.
And I agree how I've been now trying to price it, because I was doing that as well, and just kind of keeping the number down so that we could get good links.
Yeah.
We're now trying to price it more at like a link budget. So like, how much
Good.
do you want to invest in links? Is it $5,000 a month? Well, then we can allocate that into our hours, into purchasing links sometimes, into sending products, whatever it is. Um,
Hmm.
and we can allocate that budget towards different kinds of links. Because, like, the truth of it is you can buy a Forbes link. Like, you go
Yeah.
on Forbes, and there's on their website, they openly
Yeah.
admit that you can buy a Forbes. right?
Oh yeah, and they're just getting more expensive. That's it. Like even NBC, all of these sites. Even I heard Healthline. Don't. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you can buy things anywhere.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
and it does make sense. I mean, if you're a medical e-com site, a Healthline link is going to be worth pretty much more than like 100 normal guest post links that you get.
Oh yeah.
So it's like if you get a Healthline link this month and you pay thousands of dollars for it, that's going to help you in the end more than any other, it's more than 20 links that are just this random guest farm stuff.
And the rate I heard was something around 50K. But still, even if it's 50K for that one link might be way more. I mean, not might be. It is way more valuable than like even 10 years of mid-level stuff.
Right. Right. And so I've been moving towards the link budget kind of idea.
I
Um,
like that.
yeah, because I think most clients and stuff kind of understand too. Like the world is based off money, so like
Yeah.
most people understand like you can get free links, and we always try to, and like that's great. But like at the end of the
Even then, they're not free, right? The amount of
yeah,
email back and forth that you have to do to get to them, the intro that you have to do to like, have them hooked, maybe even the content that you develop to just have them post that. So even that's not free. It's like a conversion rate. What's
yep,
your conversion rate on outreach? And, it can be really effective. So link building is definitely part of what we're doing, and you need a solid link strategy. But again, I think where it's moving towards and where we're moving towards on an e-commerce um, approach is design. I think I see a lot of opportunity with SEOs and design. I look at design as being part of SEO. Like design can be more technical SEO than technical SEO. If you can improve conversion rates, your PDP pages, and even just making sure that users buy more, you're going to make more revenue, and then that also they'll come back. The users that'll send good signals to Google. So it's like this feedback loop
yep.
from design that's really good. So I like design almost as much as link building lately. Of course, links are always going to be number one for SEOs, and they are. But I do think other things like SEO is becoming everything, I think. So it's like omni channel, it's everything. So things you do on TikTok influence the SERPs, things you do on LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it, YouTube, all that stuff influences the SERPs. Even if you look at the search results, you do a search for something that might be long tail that maybe 10 years ago you saw a blog, now that's a video,
Hmm.
right? It's YouTube. That's really what's giving you the search result. So Google, Chat GPT, they're all scraping the web. That's essentially what they're doing. So if you have some good engagement and good audience signals in other places, they're going to impact your SEO as well.
I
Um,
agree.
you know, yeah.
I completely agree, and I think it does become this thing too that either like it sounds like you guys are doing a lot of the work in house, but like
Yep.
another part I think becoming a great SEO nowadays is really about too working with other parties. Like I'll
100%.
work with a company and like they'll have a Google Ads or like a Facebook Ads guy, and like their Facebook Ads guy is sending $50,000 per month of
Mm,
ad budget to their website, and like simply by telling him, hey, can you create an ad that sends it to this collection page rather
yeah.
than sending it all to the product listing pages?
Yeah.
That collect usually in SEO, the collection pages are what you want to rank,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so just by creating an ad and sending of that 50,000, maybe $1,000 a month towards
Mhm.
pages that you want to rank, then that traffic itself will help the page rank better and send more signals.
And from an SEO perspective, something I see all the time is like if that guy's sending 50K worth of traffic, are you sure that you have pixels firing like whether they're GA4 or whatever, but you're tracking everything and then you're also, exchanging customer information for retargeting. Like I do think that design, PPC, and SEO are becoming the same thing, and if you have those three teams, they need to talk
Right.
a lot.
They need to talk.
SEO helps PPC, PPC helps SEO, like some of the same keywords, some of the same landing pages that goes back to design.
Hmm.
So it's, Facebook ads, different creatives, even videos, that's going to go more design, but then there's a programmatic approach you have with ads. So I think all three of those things are becoming one ecosystem.
I agree, and I think that's something that you're on the cutting edge of SEO with, because I think a lot of technical SEOs, which is really probably the majority of SEOs, they forget this holistic marketing, and I think in the past it's been very kind of disconnected. Like you could update a title tag and you could do a couple things to the page and rank. And now it's becoming, especially in the competitive e-com spaces, I think e-com even more so.
Even more, yeah.
Yeah, you really need traffic, you really need a design, you need user engagement signals, and that just comes down to marketing, right? Like that's like
Yeah,
having a good holistic marketing set and then making sure all of the title tags, H1s and content on the
exactly.
page is targeting it. And
Yeah.
that's actually something that most people get wrong. Like most e-com brands will get that wrong. They'll just not target the page to the right keyword. They won't
Mhm.
change the title tag. They won't do the basics, but you do the basics and then you send some links and you send some traffic and you make a good website. And that's like at the end of the day, I would say the most important things for SEO for ecom.
Yeah, and one thing I would add to that is like if you have a good product or a good service, that alone is your SEO because as long as people are coming back, if people, they're so happy they leave reviews and they take more action on your site or your product, or there's UGC out there in the world, like those things actually, I think having a good product helps everything around it. So it's much easier being a full stack marketer with a great product than trying to battle uphill with a bad product. Then it's a way trickier thing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I agree. Yeah, super interesting. We'll call it a day pretty soon here. But what do you think about like anything else you want to leave us any more wisdom on Shopify SEO you want to leave us before we call it a day?
Yeah, so I think design. That's like my biggest giveaway because I think for the past year, it's like if you're doing everything 100, you're trying to be 100%, you're 92%. You got to focus on the 8% that you're not doing well on. And I think design. Every Shopify site we see, even new clients that we bring on, there's always a need for design. And even if they have good design, then it's like we scale that with Facebook ads and what have you. But like design, I think, is an area where SEOs can improve their actual revenue in with clients. And so it's becoming more important. So investing more resources in design. Really, it's like that's the face of your marketing is design.
Hmm.
So even if you do all the SEO in the world to a Shopify store, but it still looks like a 90s site,
Yeah. And I've
there's
seen
a
that. You'll see that in the SEO space, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and maybe in some audiences, like if you have a more old school target audience, maybe it still works, but
yeah.
there's a roof on that site. There's a cap on that site versus the one that has awesome design. And then it makes it scalable. So you make good brand assets once, they're on Facebook forever. It's like you're building these engines, sales engines or revenue engines, and design's a big part of that. So I think that's one like this whole year we've been getting better at design.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think design plays a critical role, especially with, I mean, even how users navigate the website too. Because
Oh,
like you also like think there it's very integrally connected, like internal links, which is like in SEO terms, and
yeah.
design. Because like you have a collection page and then you can often have sub collection items, right?
Yeah, and even with like content, topical maps, you have the pillar page and the silos. You can still design that
Really
a
pretty.
different way. Yeah, there's unlimited, and I think even the small things like your trust badges, your iconography, like if it's
Yeah.
standard, if it's not uniform, and then the cart drawer, like taking advantage of like a sticky cart,
Yep.
having some sticky stuff, and then your PDP page also like making sure it has everything the customer could possibly want, including probably if they scroll to the bottom, they better see some reviews because why did they scroll to the bottom and not click the buy button?
Yep.
So they better see some like social proof or something if they get to the bottom. Little things like that make, I think, a big difference in revenue.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, that's the point of our existence as
Yeah.
agencies. We make revenue. So yeah, I think that's a great message. Well, thank you, Sean, for jumping on and sharing your wisdom. I really do appreciate it. Awesome chat. Anything you want to like promote or where can people find you? All of that stuff.
Yeah. So our agency is Alchemy Leads, alchemyleads.com. And I'm getting a little bit more active on LinkedIn, even though LinkedIn's cringe, I'm leaning into the cringe.
Yeah, you gotta.
You gotta treat each platform the way it wants to be treated. So you might be a little different on X than you are on LinkedIn, but you got to do it. So that's where they can find me. And I'm just so happy to be here, bro. Over the past 2 years, I've seen you grow like crazy. And what number am I on this thing?
Oh, I don't know. It's
Oh,
probably
come
like
on.
number 12. Let's put it at
Number
that.
12? Oh, that's a good number. All right. A
Yeah,
dime a dozen.
yeah.
That's actually not good.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, a
No,
dime a
but
dozen is, yeah, that's not good.
oh
My
yeah,
bad.
yeah. But
Yeah.
no, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, no, thank you so much. And I think I've been very lucky to have some people actually watch us, and we've been having a good time. So thanks so much for jumping on. I learned a lot, and I think these are some of the like they're basic stuff, but it's some of the like biggest things that I think aren't talked about enough, especially in ecom. Like if you're in local SEO, might be different, but in
Mm,
ecom, like where we
okay.
specialize, like these things are so important. So yeah, no, I appreciate you speaking out and giving us some wisdom.
Awesome. Hopefully I'll be back.
Oh, of course, of course.
All right.
Thank you.